Good evening, ELA 3. It's been a bit, but let's get back into the swing of things. I left some time and space for you guys to work on the previous story since it was much longer. Scarlet Ibis is a very complex story and there's a lot going to it. And had we been in class, we would be discussing it and breaking it down fully. The story that we're going to be working on this week, The Golden Kite, The Silver Wind by Ray Bradbury, is much shorter. The version I have here is 3 pages long. So we're going to be focusing back on our basic note-taking skills. What does the text say? How does it say it? Why does it matter? Along with some questions at the end, okay? So I want to show you this document. You can find it on our Google Classroom. All right. And then you can find the PDF and the assignment right here in task X.4. So this is the piece we're going to be reading. The Golden Kite and the Silver Wind by Ray Bradbury. Now, let's annotate text. Now, this story uses this term called, this story is what we call an allegory, okay? And that is a story, poem, picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden message, often a moral or political. Okay, so that's what this is, and so this is trying to reveal the message, a theme on something that we're trying to get forward. So everything builds into this. If we talk about symbols, figurative language, if we talk about how to do that, which we're going to, as we read it, we'll take a look at it and we'll pull out some stuff and build it at the end. So at the end, we will be able to decide what is the allegory, what is this hidden message, okay? So that's kind of what we're building up to. So let me clear my notes here. I'll put that back up at the end when I pull up a whiteboard and we take a look at some things about the story, all right? In the shape of a pig, cried the Mandarin. In the shape of a pig, said the messenger, and departed. Oh, what an evil day and an evil year, cried the Mandarin. The town of Quan beyond the hill was very small in my childhood, and now it has grown so large that they are building a wall. But why should a wall 2 miles away make my good father sad and angry all within an hour? Asked his daughter quietly. They build their wall, said the Mandarin, in the shape of a pig. Do you see? Our own city wall is built in the shape of an orange. Thought a Thai pig will devour us all. They both sat thinking. Life was full of symbols and omens. Demons lurked everywhere. Death swam in the wetness of an eye. The turn of a gull's wing meant rain. A fan held so the tilt of a roof, and yes, even a city wall was of immense importance. Travelers and tourists, caravans, musicians, artists coming upon these two towns, equally judging the portents, would say, that is shitty. The city shaped like an orange. No, I will enter the city shaped like a pig and prosper, eating all growing fat with good luck and prosperity. The Mandarin wept. All is lost. These symbols and signs terrify. Our city will come on evil days. Then, said the daughter, call in your stonemasons and temple builders. I will whisper from behind silken screens, and you will know the words. The old man clapped the hands despairingly. Ho, stonemasons! Ho, builders of towns and palaces! The men who knew marble and granite and onyx and quartz came quickly. The Mandarin faced them most uneasily, himself waiting for a whisper from the silken screen behind his throne. At last, the whisper came. I have called you here, said the whisper. I have called you here, said the Mandarin aloud, because our city is shaped like an orange, and the vile city of Quan Si has this day shaped theirs like a ravenous pig. Here the stonemasons groaned and wept. Death rattled his cane in the outer courtyard. Poverty made a sound like a wet cough in the shadow of the room. And so, said the whisper and the Mandarin, you risers of the walls must go bearing trowels and rocks and change the shape of our city. The architects and masons gasped. The Mandarin himself gasped at what he had said. The whisper whispered. The Mandarin went on. And you will change our walls into a club which may beat the pig and drive it off. The stonemasons rose up, shouting. Even the Mandarin, delighted at the words from his mouth, applauded and stood down from his throne. Quick, he cried, Tuak! When his men had gone, smiling and bustling, the Mandarin turned with great love to the silken screen. Dada, he whispered, I will embrace you. There was no reply. He stepped around the screen and she was gone. Such modesty, he thought. She has slipped away and left me with a triumph as if it were mine. The news spread through the city. The Mandarin was acclaimed. Everyone carried stone to the walls. Fireworks were set off, and demons of death and poverty did not linger as all worked together. At the end of the month, the wall had been changed. It was now a mighty bludgeon with which to drive pigs, boars, even lions away. The Mandarin slept like a happy fox every night. I would like to see the Mandarin of Quanxi when the news is learned. Such pandemonium and hysteria. He will likely throw himself a mountain. A little more wine, O daughter who thinks like a son. But the pleasure was like a winter flower. It died swiftly. That very afternoon, the messenger rushed from the courtyard. Oh, Mandarin disease, early sorrow, avalanches, grasshopper plagues, and poisoned well water. The Mandarin trembled. The town of Quanxi, said the messenger, which was built like a pig and which animal we drove away by changing our walls to a mighty stick, has now turned triumph to winter ashes. They have built their city's walls like a great bonfire to burn our stick. The Mandarin's heart sickened within him like an autumn fruit upon an ancient tree. Oh gods, travelers will spurn us, tradesmen, reading symbols will turn from the stick so easily destroyed to the fire which conquers all. No, said the whisper like a snowflake from behind the silken screen. No, said the startled Mandarin. Tell my stonemasons, said the whisper that was a falling drop of rain, to build our walls like the shape of a shining lake. The Mandarin said this aloud, his heart warmed. And with this lake of waters, the whisper and the old man, we will quench the fire and put it out forever. The city turned out in joy to learn that once again they had been saved by the magnificent emperor of ideas. They ran to the walls, built them nearer to this newer vision, singing, not as loudly as before, of course, for they were tired, and not as quickly, for since it had taken a month to build the wall the first time, they had to neglect business and crops, and therefore were somewhat weaker and poorer. There then followed a succession of terrible, horrible, and wonderful days, one in another, like a nest of frightened boxes. Oh, Emperor, cried the messenger, Quanxi has rebuilt their walls to resemble a mouth with which to drink all our lake. Then, said the emperor, standing very close to his silken screen, build our walls like a needle to sew up that mountain. Emperor, screamed the messenger, they make their walls like a sword to break your needle. The emperor held, trembling, to the silken screen. Then shift the stones to form a scabbard to sheathe that sword. Mercy, wept the messenger the following morn. They have worked all night and shaped their walls like lightning, with which will explode and destroy that sheaf. Sickness spread in the city like a pack of evil dogs. Shop closed. The population, now working steadily for endless months upon changing the walls, resembled Death himself, clattering his white bones like musical instruments in the wind. Funerals began to appear in the streets. Though it was the middle of summer, a time when all should be tending and harvesting. The Mandarin fell so ill that he had his bed drawn up to the silken screen, and there he lay miserably giving architectural orders. The voice behind the screen was weak now, too, and faint, like wind in the eaves. Quanxi is an eagle. Then our walls must be a net for that eagle. They are a sun to burn our net. Then we build a moon to eclipse the sun. Like a rusted machine, the city ground to a halt. At last, the whisper behind the screen cried out, in the name of the gods, send for Quanxi. Upon the last day of summer, the Mandarin Quanxi, very ill and withered away, was carried into our Mandarin's courtroom by 4 starving footmen. The 2 Mandarins propped up, facing each other. Their breaths fluttered like winter winds in their mouths. A voice said, let us put an end to this. The old man nodded. This cannot carry on, said the faint voice. Our people do nothing but rebuild our cities a different shape every day, every hour. They have no time to hunt, to fish, to love, to be good to their ancestors and their ancestors' children. This I admit, said the mandarin, in the town of Cage, the moon, the spear, the fire, the sword, and this and that and other things. Carry us into the sunlight, said the voice. The old men were born under the sun and up a little hill. The late summer breeze, a few very thin children were flying dragon kites in all colors of the sun, and frogs in grass, the color of the sea and the color of coins and wheat. The first mandarin's daughter stood by his bed. See, she said. Those are nothing but kites, said the old two men. But what is a kite on the ground? She said. It is nothing. What does it need to sustain it and make it beautiful and truly spiritual? The wind, of course, said the others. And what do the sky and the wind need to make them beautiful? A kite, of course, many kites to break monotony. The sameness of the sky, colors, kites flying. So, said the mandarin's daughter, you, Quanxi, will make a rebuilding of your town to resemble nothing more or less than the wind, and we shall build like a golden kite. The wind will beautify the kite and carry it to wondrous heights, and the kite will break the sameness of the wind's existence and give it purpose and meaning. One without the other is nothing. Together all will be beautiful, cooperation, and a long and enduring life. Whereupon two mandarins were so overjoyed that they took their first nourishment in days, momentarily were given strength, embraced, and lavish praised upon each other, called the mandarin's daughter a boy, a man, a stone pillar, a warrior, and a true and unforgettable son. Almost immediately they parted and hurried to their towns, calling out and singing weakly but happily. And so, in time, the towns became the town of the golden kite and the town of the silver wind. Harvestings were harvested, and businesses tended again, and the flesh returned. Disease ran off like a frightened jackal. On every night of the year, the inhabitants in the town of the kite could hear the good, clear wind sustaining them, and those in the town of the wind could hear the kites singing, whispering, rising, beautifying them. So be it, said the mandarin in front of his silken screen. All right, so this is a complex story, but there's a lot of things to go into here. So we're going to take a look at it and kind of break it down in terms of some big ideas. So first things first, let me get this text up here for you guys. Make sure it's nice and big so we can see it. We're going to start off with a definition allegory. Again, an allegory is a story, poem, picture. Sorry, making my screen so I can actually work. Select. Story, poem, picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral/political. Now, allegories have been popular in the past. There's a lot of things to be said about them. One of the famous ones, which I don't know if I get my hands on, is the Butter Wars by Dr. Seuss. And it's an allegory for this Cold War. It's sort of an arms race. So where two sides build up each of their powers till one is stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger until that's the whole purpose. And it kind of forgets what it's originally about. So when we look at this, we kind of want to look at the figurative language, examine an allegory, look at the objects, events, and people. Help develop meaning. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing here, me, because I like to draw. So this is how you actually develop that meaning, that purpose, and such. So first things first, we're going to start with the walls themselves. Now the walls were called Town 1, Golden Kite. Over here, make it a different color because I got to be difficult. Down to Silver Wind. These are the names of what we found at the end of it. Now, so as we go through it, we're going to build it down. So the town 1, we start off with their wall. First off, first wall was an orange, okay? And so what is an orange? Well, this is a fruit. That means it gives life, is grown, colorful, color and beauty, right? Then if we talk about the town of the Silver Wind, their first wall is a pig. Strength, health, wealth. If pig is fat, you have a lot of wealth, you can afford it. And this pig will eat the orange. The story talks about how there are symbols everywhere. Go back over here. Symbols everywhere. They only have to be interpreted. Okay, so that means we have to put an opinion, a thought next to them in order to figure out the meaning. All right. So what happens when each of these, when this first happens? Well, when Golden Kite finds out that Silver Wind has built the walls as a pig, they're afraid that SW will defeat them. How? Economically, militarily, spell. It's not how you spell it. I think that's how you spell it. Okay, etc. And that fear so what's going on here is that they're afraid that Golden Kite is afraid that SW will defeat them economically, militarily, etc. Afraid that SW will be more prosperous, will steal all the wealth of Golden Kite. So, what happens? Well, oops. What happens? Golden Kite decides to build as a stick. All right, and how does Silverwind respond? As a fire. All right, and so if we look at this, go purple. Kind of see a pattern here starting to emerge. All right. Then if we go to the next one, blue again. Golden Kite builds their wall as a lake. Silverwind builds their wall as a mouth. And so on and so forth. So we build this, this happens back and forth, back and forth. Now, what's important here to note, let me get a different color here. I'm gonna go green. I'm gonna take this right here, okay? draw it down here, go over here for a little bit. Text, I want green again. So we have to ask ourselves, what is happening to towns people as they build the walls? All right, it's kind of an important question about this in terms of the whole message. All right, what is happening to townspeople? So the first wall, the first one they built, or rebuild, I should say, is easy. It's simple to do. Everyone is healthy. And strong. They have the materials. It's an easy time. Okay. But as they move on, they get weaker and weaker. As they build and rebuild. Why? Why do they get weaker and weaker? Well, they get weaker because their focus is on the walls instead of everything else. All right. And so the people get sick, they start dying. That whole prosperity that they're so worried about and everything, each side so badly wants, disappears. But all they can focus on is the wall. Our wall has to be better and better, okay, than everyone else's. So this kind of sets up the whole conflict of the story. All right. We got our objects, we got our events. Last thing that's left is the people. I'm going to do this in purple text over here. All right, just to help break things down a little bit more, we go to purple. Okay, so our characters. Who are our characters? The first one is the Mandarin. He's like the ruler. Okay. In charge of Golden Kite. He's kind of the main character, our main voice we see. We also see the messenger. News of Silver Wind. And their wall to the Mandarin. All right. The last one, I think, is kind of important and like is ignored. And it's interesting on how this works. Daughter of Mandarin. She's ignored in the story. She's the one who gives the Mandarin the ideas from behind a silken sheet wall. She whispers the ideas for him to repeat. Okay. So makes the decisions and is listened to. So that's the Mandarin. You get the messenger who brings the news to the wall. He's just kind of there. And then the daughter's the one who gives the ideas for him to repeat to save. Okay. So she's the one who comes up with ideas because that's what the Mandarin wants. He wants this certain thing. He wants the town to be prosperous. She wants her father to be happy. So she comes up with these ideas, tells them to him. He repeats them. And that's what starts us on the big cycle we see above. Now, at the end, what happens? Go back to black. Both towns come together. Both towns are sick and dying. All that prosperity is gone. We see that their focus is so focused on the walls, they can't do anything else. Each ruler is old and weak. Okay. Why? Because they have focused on the walls instead of their people. So what does it take again? Well, The R comes up with the window kite. Two objects cannot survive, live without. I'm gonna go with live actually. Live, truly live, to truly have value. All right. And so by making the walls that, the towns become prosperous again. They are able to work together with each other. So that's what we have going on. All right. So I hope I was able to at least give some understanding of this. And now this doesn't necessarily help us get to meaning what is the allegory, except it does. All right. I'm going to save this. Okay. You guys are going to get access to this again. I'm going to clear this, create a new one. So question becomes, what is the meaning? What is the theme? What is going on here? Well, sorry, trying to maneuver these things. Two sides at war, fighting through non-violent means, to become better than the other, with no concern for their own success, but simply better than the other. All right. Golden Wind, Silver Kite, they're constantly fighting each other, and it's non-violent. They haven't attacked each other. They're not trying to kill each other, and yet they are, because that's all they're concerned with is simply being better. So then we can ask, who do the signs represent? Well, this story was in 1953. Okay. During the beginning of the Cold War and the arms race, where U.S. and Russia built weapons to kill each other. Bigger and stronger weapons, more and more nukes, things like that. So, but we can also then still take this to today, is where do we have two sides that are fighting against each other with no violence, and yet the people aren't as prosperous. What do we have in charge of our government? What do we have in charge of the world? You can say, okay, we can say United States versus country. We can say, I can do this just to make sure it's clear that these are answers. We can say, factor. Fighting against each other without direct violence, arming themselves to win. So that's kind of the key of what's going on here, who each side represent. All right, then come over here. I go different color, I'm going to go green. The outcome, what happens? At the end, both rulers and towns are sick and dying because of their focus on the wall. All right. So what message do you take away? So when I come back next week, we're going to talk a bit more about that. And that's kind of one of the big things I want you guys to find. That's partly what the questions are help guiding you towards. I'm also putting this thing up here. And then finally, this question, and I think it's important to always ask this, is why does it matter? Why does this story matter? What about today's world do you see in this story? Actually, how does the story connect to today's world / society? Why? So, our goals. You want to be able to answer this question. What's the message in this question? All right. So the note taking, the questions I gave you guys are help building up to these things. I'm going to save this as well, and then I will upload this video plus these boards for you guys to be able to use. All right. So the assignment is posted. Sharing. Go back to here. Assignment is posted here. Module X, task X.4, Golden Wind, the Silver Wind, both here. You guys can see the video plus the two, what do you call them, whiteboard screens uploaded today as well. You guys have a wonderful day. Take care. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of your answers.